I have to admit, I was one of those that thought bariatric was a very, very drastic measure. And for the longest time, couldn't understand why people would even do that. But as I progressed throughout my struggles with weight loss, and ultimately for me, culminating with the inability to lose weight any further, I just could not get down at all.
Welcome to the Bariatric Nutrition Coach Podcast, where we empower you with weight loss surgery, nutrition knowledge, mindset advice, and inspiration so you succeed in your weight and health journey. I'm your host, Jane Stoltz, and I am a bariatric dietitian who has helped over 1,300 people on their weight loss surgery journeys. I'm also a solo mum, lover of long walks while listening to podcasts, partial to a glass of wine, and the ocean is my happy place. Join me as I dive deep into bariatric nutrition and lifestyle topics and deliver them to you in bite-sized, palatable episodes every Monday. Now let's go. Welcome to this episode of the Bariatric Nutrition Coach Podcast. And it's one of my special episodes where I have a wonderful client or past client join me in my podcast. And today I have the lovely Lisa, who is a current client. In a minute, Lisa, I'm going to hand over to you to share whatever you would like to share about yourself. Lisa and I have worked together since last August, so August 2024, and it is now nearly April 25. So we do know each other quite well, and she's wonderful to work with. It's an absolute pleasure coaching and supporting Lisa, and I'm really appreciative of you, Lisa, being able to come on my podcast. So without any further ado, I'd love to ask you to say hello and introduce yourself.
Hi, greetings from Rhode Island in the US. That's why I have my lovely water background. And Jane, the feeling is mutual. The pleasure is also mine in working with you. A little bit about myself. I'm 60 years young, and I have been on a bariatric weight loss journey for almost all my life, culminating with the bariatric weight loss surgery tool. I had a gastric bypass in May of 2024, and I'm down about 130 pounds at this point from my original pre-surgical weight. And here I am. What else have you got to ask me, Jane?
Lots. I think it was around 3 months post-surgery when we started working together. So we have worked through so many really important things in your journey. We've worked through the food side, and we've done lots with the food and schedule. But we've also done, and I know that this is one of my reasons for asking you to come on, Lisa, is sharing about the mindset journey, the emotional journey, all of that. And we're going to get to that. But I wanted to ask you, what do you think some of the hardest things have been for you? Actually, I'm not going to ask that in a minute. I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back, and I'm going to ask you part of the reasons why you decided, what pushed you to that point of having bariatric surgery, and what were some of your thoughts about bariatric surgery before you had it?
Well, I have to admit, I was one of those that thought bariatric was a very, very drastic measure. And for the longest time, couldn't understand why people would even do that. But as I progressed throughout my struggles with weight loss, and ultimately for me, culminating with the inability to lose weight any further, I just could not get down at all. Anytime I started, my body would just fight me on it. And that was very confusing for me in particular. There was a couple of health issues. Number one, I was increasingly short of breath when I was walking into my job. My weight was going up and up and up. So you think, well, if you're short of breath and you're gaining weight, you need to lose weight. Well, my activity tolerance was nothing. So here I thought, well, I need to lose weight in order to be active, but in order to be active, I need to lose weight. And so I was just squashed right in that middle section, which was an awful place to be and feeling pretty hopeless. Went for a cardiac stress test. They said I had 0% activity tolerance. And that, as a nurse, just stopped me cold. That was the last straw. I did start looking into bariatric weight loss. I can remember even finding you on Instagram and going, oh my gosh, what does this mean? How do I do this? You were so kind and generous and talked to me even way before we even started, because I think I talked to you in November of 2023 and you answered immediately. I can remember driving and us talking and then just trying to figure out what I was going to do. And you said, one step at a time, and gave me some great, just beginner deep breathing, one day at a time, investigate, ask the questions. And that was just really encouraging for me.
Beautiful. That's a wonderful point, Lisa. And that's part of that process of pre-surgery is investigating and kind of gathering information and asking questions. And I think that is so important. So you go into your surgery really educated. You can only be so educated because you don't know what's on the other side with respect to how you're going with certain foods and things. But it is lovely to reach out and to gather and help with that decision making. Because I've heard, and I've said this before, but I've heard the statistic of most people spend around 2 years considering surgery before they go ahead. Some people are quite short, but other people even longer. So the quality of life and health, you are seeing the impacts of your weight. And so lovely, you had surgery. What were some of the hardest things in the early days? Was there anything that surprised you, or what were the early days before we started working together like?
Well, I actually want to just skip back a little bit because I think the whole process of coming to the decision of taking this tool was significant. And when I think people who may be listening to this, or this may be their first time being aware of it, is that you go through a process with your surgical team. I always thought to myself, I can lose the weight, but I could never keep it off. And then each time I tried to lose it, I would yo-yo back up and I could only get down a certain amount. And when I met with the surgeon, she said, your list is so extensive. I think you literally have tried everything. And I said, yes, I'm at a hopeless point. I don't know where to turn. And so it was a big decision for me, even up until that night before. You have that moment where you're like, am I really doing this? Because it's cashing in a chip. I mean, if you're going to do it, do it. I mean, this is not an easy decision. And I knew it would be life changing. And that was the key thing. I was hoping for that life change. I needed a fresh start, a new reboot, a new tool. And this was my one chance to get it. And so I was very grateful for it. Initially, after the surgery, it was tough. I had a little bit of a extra stay in the hospital because I just couldn't get the fluids down. But that taught me slow and steady. Already my mindset had to start working. This is a new day, a new life, literally. And so even then I had to say, yes, I can't force my body. I need to listen to what it can and can't do. And that really happened from day one.
You also need to be acknowledged, Lisa, because you from word go were really ready to do the work.
Yes.
And from word go of even us working together, I know you talked about that before, but you are great at following instructions and that's wonderful, but also you're really open and willing to do all the hard work, which we're going to talk more about that. So I just want to acknowledge that for people listening. It's a lovely mindset to enter about the bariatric journey and say, this is not a quick fix. I've tried other things, yes, and I've dusted myself off, and I'm really going to roll up my sleeves and use this very powerful tool. It's a leap of faith and it's not reversible. So that's really fantastic. Life changes. You have your surgery. You get home. How long do you have off work before you go back to work?
I had 5 weeks off. And in the middle of that, I was moving, believe it or not.
Yes,
so.
yes. What fun. What fun time. How did you find the transition of going from home back to work? What was that like for you?
That was really tough. So for me, the beginning, When you were home, it was focusing on those fluids and the little bit of food that as they transitioned you through, and that was okay.
Mm.
There was safety in that. But at work, all of a sudden, I was busy.
Mm.
All of a sudden, I would find myself going, I haven't drank and it's now 12 o'clock. How much fluid am I supposed to get in? How does that happen? And then, gosh, I was supposed to eat and oh, I didn't eat and I feel awful. And at that point, I was shoving something like, say, an applesauce just to bring my glucose up because I had had nothing and I wasn't taking very good self care, not necessarily due to my own fault. It was just due to life happening.
Yes, yes. Because there's so much, and I say this all the time, there's so much change. People will say, oh, I can't wait after surgery when I don't have to think about food so much. And it's a bit of a surprise and a bit of a rude shock. And when you say, actually, you're going to have to think about it more. Your day has to be quite scheduled. You have to be more planned. And that is, I remember that was one of the first things we worked on when we started working together was schedule. And that was a big thing because your body doesn't always have, you don't have those same thirst and hunger and fullness cues in those early days. Talk to me about that. We did lots of work on your schedule.
I was so grateful. The biggest thing I was grateful for is a schedule, period. Like just to take a moment to reflect, work out, plan that. And then the key thing for me was setting those reminders in my phone to let me know that, oh, I have 15 minutes before my snack is due or my next eating meal, whether it be half of a shake or whatever, but I needed to be aware of that. And so literally my timer was going off on vibrate to alert me. And that, I don't know where I'd be right now if I hadn't done that, because honestly, I felt awful. I could not figure out when to drink, when to eat, how to manage this. And I thought, what have I done? But once I got to a schedule and learned about that and where to fit in the fluids, I started feeling confident and successful, like, oh, this is doable. And I only had to take one phase at a time. So each time it was like, this is doable. Okay. And you were always right there for, hey, Jane, still not drinking enough and missing those fluids. And you're like, okay, buy a clear water bottle. Think about splitting it up. And those things definitely helped me at those earlier days and even now, even
Mm.
now.
Yeah, and it's big. Before surgery, you can eat enough to sustain you for many hours and you can catch up on your fluid intake quite quickly. The schedule is, that's why I talk about it and I often work at first because we need to get that rhythm going. So, yes, and some people's jobs and just personality, it's not something that happens automatically. We worked on that. We have worked through lots of that food component side of things and meal plan lists and all of that, Lisa. I
Yes.
think that the thing that I would love to dive more into is the work we've been doing on the old dieting mindset, relationship
Yes.
with the body, and all of that, because you are so open to doing that work. You're so good at verbalizing and even writing, this is where I'm struggling and this is what's coming up, because different things come up at different stages.
So, first of all, let's talk about the mindset. So, we're used to restricting, we're used to counting calories, we're used to weighing, we're used to good or bad foods, we're used to feeling positive or negative depending on the scale. And one of the tools that was great was your roadmap, where you had us reflect periodically about key significant weight loss foundation behaviors and habits. And so that was the first thing. The second thing was realizing that this is not going to change in a minute. And for me, that was revolutionary. Like you saying, this is a journey. This is lifelong, not a sprint. It's not like I run the race and I'm done. That it's going to have different phases. It's not
Mm.
linear. It's going to go up and down. And for me, realizing that, oh boy, okay, I'll admit it, I'm 60. So that means, well, I'm 59, going to be 60 May 1st. But so that means that I've had a heck of a lot of more years behind me with that dieting restriction mindset than the 10 months that are in front of me. And so I put in support systems. I had to start looking at journaling around things like, wow, that was triggering. what does the scale mean to me other than now that I understand it's your gravity's pull on you on the scale. That's all it is. Like that's a measurement. But there's many other ways to look at success. And I so appreciate the support, which was quite honestly, knowing that you were there, knowing that twice a week I was going to get feedback from you, knowing that once a week I was going to have to reflect on what are my non-scale victories? What were my wins? What are my struggles? What are my questions? And I think if I didn't have you and coaching, I wouldn't have been looking at that. I think I would have been still in the good and bad mindset and the restriction, like, oh, this is just another diet. But I'm gaining confidence, getting prepared. And let's face it, let's talk about some of the ugly things, not just the dieting mindset, but the not so sexy things like, as you say, constipation, or some may have diarrhea, but I did not experience diarrhea. So something new, listening to your body, like, oh, why am I always feeling not like I already overate? And I had to learn what were my body's cues for being satisfied and fullness. That was way different than piling a mound of food because I was a fast eater. I loved volume post gastric bypass. You're not having a volume of a full restaurant sized plate, which I could knock off easily. And so it was relearning these habits and moving towards a new lifestyle.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. And you touched on so many great things there. I want to talk about why I really focus on breaking that dieting mindset. That's why I put in the roadmap those reflection points, asking my clients to reflect and reflect. We don't want to ruminate, which is stay there and looking at it with compassion, but having self-awareness, we need that before we can change anything. And with the dieting mindset, we want to really be aware of the things we're saying to ourselves. You know, that self-talk is so powerful. And the reason why I focus on being aware and breaking the dieting mindset and approaching the bariatric journey in a different way is the dieting mindset will derail you. You are going to put on some weight, your scale's going to go up at some point. If you go back into, I need to restrict, I need to diet, the pouch reset or whatever it is, that is back into dieting. You restrict, you can't stay there forever, and then you bounce into overeating, and that overeating cycle is where you regain weight. So we're wanting to break this dieting mindset, which pulls you into restriction, and then what you can't hold restriction for so long, you bounce into overeating. So we really want to kind of desensitize ourselves to the normal ups and downs of weight, because we are getting you ready for maintenance. We're not quite there yet, Lisa, but in the coaching, we talk all about maintenance can be for many people the hardest stage. That I'm so used to being losing or gaining weight. What does maintenance look and feel like? And what are those little thoughts that keep popping up? Chances are always pop up at some point. But you acknowledge them, think, and put them to the side. I recorded yesterday a really wonderful podcast with a guest. That hasn't gone out yet. But she's an old proverb of having the good wolf and the bad wolf in your head. You've got to make sure you feed the good wolf more than the bad wolf. And that good wolf is the one that says, it's okay, you've put on a few pounds. We don't have to go back into restriction. We can go back to our basics, our key habits, the habits that keep us satisfied.
I think at one point I was interacting with you through WhatsApp and you're like, I want you to pull out a sheet of paper. I want you to list what you've done, what you're doing, and that you are enough and you are doing great. I filled up 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper with what I was doing, and it is enough. And I am doing well. And it is looking with compassion and grace. Like, I'm not perfect. I'm not going to be perfect, but it's just a hiccup. Whereas probably pre-surgery, it wasn't a hiccup. It was like, you're a failure. Look at you, how awful you are. Now I'm like, oh, okay, I did that. Now, what should I change course, or is there anything I need to do? No. Okay. Wow. I wasn't really paying attention right then. It wasn't like this huge, I call it henny penny, the sky is falling. Hey, too much. I blew everything. No, you didn't blow everything.
All or nothing thinking. I had a couple of biscuits. Well, I might as well finish the whole pack. Whereas I had a couple of biscuits. That's okay. And I hope you want to enjoy them. That's okay. I'll get back to what I need to do and back on track. And that is absolutely, it's kind of a muscle, it's a practice, and you get better at it because
Yes.
always going to have that part of you that goes, oh, we want to pick up when we're saying, because we all have that self-talk, but some really common self-talk after bariatric surgeries. I knew I wouldn't be able to do this, like I haven't done other things. And when it gets really more mean and more destructive, that's when I also say it's great to talk to someone, because often there can be that talk of self-worth. Am I not worth? If it start going into self-sabotage, we want to really pick it up and we want to really be aware of it. And that's some of the work that I do. But if things get really deep, I always recommend going to talk to someone. But that's really wonderful, Elisa, because I know so many people are going to relate to what you're saying.
It's looking like you taught me to even just take a moment of, I think I talked about pistachios once, pistachios. And I was like, wow, all I want is pistachios. And I'm like, well, first of all, it took me a moment just to, like, rather than be judgy, to go, why do you want pistachios? Let's look at this. What are pistachios to you? Why are they so prevalent right now? Why are you thinking about pistachios? Do you need the crunch? Hmm, Do you need the salt? Oh, look, they're on the table nonstop in front of my eyes. Perhaps I should move the pistachios. Rather than a previous life, I probably would have said, oh my gosh, I've eaten too many pistachios. Oh, this is all done. I am through. I guess I blew my diet. I might as well take the pistachios and sit on the couch.
Yeah.
And it is a tremendous amount of work, but I'm worth it. I'm worth it. And I want this new lifestyle. I'm going to be 60, as I said. I have two daughters, 21 and 22. I was not doing well. My exercise tolerance was 0%. I was heading towards diabetes. I wanted to live and live a healthy lifestyle. The other key thing for me is movement. You help me even look around the diet mindset of going to the gym and burning off calories versus I go outside. I love what I do. I move my body. And I remember us talking about exercise snacks. And I
Yeah.
said, that's what I do at work because I couldn't get in a 30-minute walk if I wanted to. So it was, oh, I have a 15-minute break. I'm going to take a 10-minute walk around the block. It's a lovely day. I'm just going to move my body. I'm not going to think about how many steps or how many minutes or how many calories I burned. Just moving my body, which is a huge change in my mindset, a huge
It,
change.
and it's wonderful to really appreciate your body can move and it's easier, and that's lovely. I love it when clients say their knees don't hurt and they can go up some stairs easier and do things with their children, their family, their grandchildren. And that's what it's about. So it is about, as you said before, celebrating also all the things that you're getting, not just what the scales are saying. But it's mindset. I advocate for doing movement that you love, not torturing yourself, going to the gym if you don't want to go to the gym, because it's not for everyone. Some people love the gym. Great. They get buddies there and they love it. Great. But if you want to do bowling, if you want to do rollerblading, there's not many people after, I don't know, 25 that want to do rollerblading, but there might be some. But if you want to go back and do swimming by yourself, or what did you enjoy doing as a child? Because when we love movement, when we love how we're moving our body, it's more likely to do it. But for me, it's not so much about burning the calories. It's actually about the mental health, dealing with stress,
Just
negative thoughts, and sleep. We all have stress. And when we're talking about emotional eating and non-hungry eating, the thoughts that are going with that aren't the positive, they're stress. So it just really helps. And in that maintenance phase, the research really supports maintaining weight after bariatric surgery, that regular activity is really important.
I'm laughing because it's almost for everything except what I used to do it for. That would be for weight loss, I would be so regimented, counting calories, how many hours, how many minutes, what did I do? And now I do it for almost everything else, but I do it for the stress reduction. I do it when I'm all of a sudden cranky and I can't figure out my way out of a paper bag. And I'm like, I'm going outside. I'm going out for a walk. I have walked in rain and snow. I just bought a weather appropriate jacket, and I'm here to say you can if you love walking like I do. And to be able to do that is such an honor and a privilege in this new body. It really is, considering I could hardly breathe going into work before.
I love that. If you've got the right clothes, walking in rain can be quite amazing because it's nature. You're getting the wind. I'm a big fan. Obviously, if it's coming sideways and there's gales and it's a cyclone, we're not advocating that.
And with that, just think about that. So pre-weight loss surgery, I would have been, I'm going out walking no matter what, because I have to, or else my diet's going to fail. And now I can say, oh, it is quite awful out there. It's okay today if I don't. It's just today.
Yeah, beautiful.
What a freedom. What a freedom.
And I want to come back to, because that was a lovely point, and this kind of links in with the point that you made before. It is really hard work, and you're doing the really hard work, but it does get easier in time. Because when we have habits, when habit is something that we do kind of automatically and it comes more naturally, it's more effort to create new habits than to keep them going. So we want to get to that point where we're rocking along in maintenance, and it's less effortful. It still does require some effort, but less effort. I think of it like building a building. You're laying the foundations and you're doing the really hard things now, so you get into that more smooth sailing in the main. Go off track a little bit, but you had to come back, and you are going through your life and really enjoying all those wonderful benefits. So I asked you before, it's because I wanted your permission. When we started working together, Lisa, we do goals, and with all my clients, we do goals. And whenever we renew and go into another boot camp together, we revisit goals. And I love goals. There's always generally a weight goal, which is fine, but I love other goals because we want to find things that really inspire us. And I would love to share your big picture goals that you put down. And this is to give people, I suppose, some inspiration. So I'm going to go through them. We can talk a bit more about them. Growing and being flexible as I unlearn. So I loved that because it is learning, but unlearn 40 years of dieting and unhealthy lifestyle. Learning to prepare and eat what my body needs that will help me thrive. And to have an open, non-judgmental mind to learning. I'm learning new tools and habits. And I loved this. So you came in so ready to be open to relearning. And that's harder as we get older.
Yes.
Stuck in our ways. Let's just talk to me more about that. I loved that you were so open to saying, what do I have to do?
I think it is that open mind set, and you need support. It's not easy. There are days where I'm more open, but I know for myself, the old ways just weren't working anymore. And this would take a pivot, an absolute pivot. And so I wanted to go in open. And I love the fact that with your coaching, I called my pouch, everybody laughs in my family, my baby pouch. So I said, my baby pouch. But I was like a newborn. I was really learning new things. And the time to learn it was while I was in the weight loss phase, because the restriction and the surgery, I'm going to lose weight. I took that opportunity to start learning about my body, what felt good, what didn't feel good, taste changes. I had significant taste changes that I was surprised about, honoring the fact that, I may not like that food anymore. Okay, that's okay. Or trying new foods, being open to, gosh, I ate salmon. Wow, I've never had salmon before. Or combining new flavors, or holy cow, I don't need mayonnaise in my tuna necessarily. I could use something different and it tasted even better than what it was before, because I'm a new person. And so I'm learning those things. And I agree with you, though, it does get easier. If you told me that 4 months ago, that I would really be able to listen to my body and know my satisfied cues, not full, but satisfied, and know that I can trust myself, and know when I'm hungry and know what I need. I can say that I'm still learning, but I definitely can trust myself. I now hear those quiet times where my body's like, you are hungry and it's okay. And what can you do to satisfy that? Those are different things for me completely. And you have to be open to saying, okay, I'm in it for the long haul. This is a journey, it's an adventure, and it's a new way of living. And that jazzes me. So, yeah, there's times where I'm down. Don't get me wrong, there's times where I was down. But again, it was just being able to say, okay, that was a day, or that was an afternoon, or geez, it is frustrating. Gosh, I don't know if I'm getting this right. But having support through you, I also did get involved with a therapist because some of the things that were coming up, I needed to do some deep work. Not everybody may have that, but for me, it has been helpful. And then, of course, I do have my team that did the surgery, and they've been there for me. Broke it down into little bite-sized pieces, as you said. No joke intended, but a pun intended. Bite-sized bits. Even the education was small. It wasn't like, oh, we're going to change our diet. We're going to learn how to cook. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. No, it was like, let's start with a schedule. And I was like, really? Come on, I need more than that. And you're like, nope, let's start with a schedule. And bit by bit, the foundations were built. And so, yeah, working it, I'm worth it, and I'm going to keep doing the best I can.
Beautiful, beautiful. People do think when you start working with a dietitian, they're just going to tell me exactly what to eat, and I'm going to do that, and it's going to solve all my problems and all my struggles. And it's much more than that, because it's like when people say, just give me a meal plan. Meal plans do not teach you all the things that we want you to know. We want to have lovely, wonderful, long lists of meals and snacks that we really enjoy. But through that process, you also get to know how to build a great meal and snack. You get that ability to do that for the rest of your life. But you also brought up, Lisa, a really lovely topic of trusting yourself and listening to your body, trusting food and trusting body. Years of dieting is not about trusting body and trusting food. It's about looking at apps that tells you how much to eat, and looking at calories, and that's all external. And all through that, your body's talking to you. Very normal to be hungrier some days than others. And that definitely comes up after bariatric surgery. Some days you need to eat more than others. So I don't want, and my example is you can put two exact same lunches on plates, and you can have one day, you comfortably eat it. The next day, at 2/3, your body says that's enough. I want my clients to listen, because your body is talking to you. You won't overeat if you listen to your body. Another day, you might need to put something extra in. And that's what you're saying. If you listen and say, and we want to do that, because if you get over hungry at that next meal, it's really hard to eat slowly. So it is about listening to the body, and our environment kind of gears us up with our eyes and calories, and all this is external. We're not listening to what our body is telling us. And that is a practice, and it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight, and trust. So I think that was a really wonderful point. So what do you think, Lisa, are some of the biggest benefits you've got out of working together?
I think confidence. I think new habits and tools and skills, like to eat slowly. Wow, I can eat slowly. I mean, yes, there are some times, but oh well, I'm human. But by and large, I can eat slowly. Listening to my body. Are you kidding me? I never thought that would be a reality. I'm going to say love and compassion, like learning love and compassion for myself, and knowing that when the scale goes up, or when I eat too much, or when I muff up, or I just don't hear the cue, or I'm distracted and, oh, that didn't work as well. To have that compassion and to just say, oh, what went well? What didn't go well? I think was key. Learning different foods and how to look at food labels in a way that I never looked at them before. Like what components, how to not even worry 100% about calories, but What about the fiber? What about the protein? And I loved your saying initially, it annoyed me when I started, when you're like, we can do better, right? You were always very encouraging, and you still are. You're always very encouraging. And I'm like, I can do better. And it wasn't frustrating, Jane. I wanted it immediately, like that dietitian mindset. I wanted you to tell me what to eat, when to eat, how to eat it, and everything would be good. Well, I had to learn, right? Because you're training me to take off the training wheels. You're training me up so that I can do this, and that these are habits that have been well established in a foundation. And so if you gave me a plan and it was followed, then I would be right back where I was with the weight loss program. When the plan didn't work, I wouldn't work and I wouldn't figure it out. So I think that's the majority of what has been.
I want you to leave working with me, I call it when you fly off on your own, and be able to choose good options off the shelf and know what to look for. And that takes time, because I'll always say, look, I can go onto a supermarket website and I can look for things. And I also want you to start looking and start saying, here's some criteria or guidelines, and what do you think? And that process does take longer. And why I say we can do better is because it's not like a good food. It's not, oh, that's good or that's not good. It's like, can we find something nutritionally that's got more of the things that we want and that we still really enjoy? And if I give you a meal plan or I tell you to eat this and that, it's not necessarily what you enjoy, because everyone's different. So it is trial and error, and that's why I do it in the way I do it. Before we jumped on the podcast, you mentioned a really great point that you thought about sharing, Lisa, about accessing health.
Oh, yes, yes. So initially, you talked about working with you and costs and what it would be like in different levels. I thought they were reasonable, but I was most curious for myself if my flex spending, which is as part of my insurance, I get pre-tax dollars taken out in a flex spending account, whether it would be covered. And of course, I can't answer for everybody's plan, but I would encourage people to paid your invoice, and then I submitted it. And you worked great with me by making sure that you had your licenses and your titles and your American Academy or whatever. I'm sorry, I don't remember all the titles, but it really allowed me to submit it. And honestly, I had not a hiccup. They paid for me working with you twice so far in the flex spending. So I got reimbursed, and I just want anybody in, I don't know for Australia, but in the United States, it is something we have and definitely is worth looking into to help cover it. But I got to be honest with you, if they didn't cover it, I was at the point where I needed to invest in myself, and I needed that support. I needed the support, and I needed to learn, and I wasn't going to do it any other way. So I went and had the surgery. That was big, and I was already committed.
But if you can access that, then that is fantastic, because yes, I am a member of the ASMBS, which is the American Society of Metabolic and Bariatric Surgery, also registered in Australia. And that we have different, yes, every country has their own system and own ways of getting rebates and all of that. So please, if you can access that, then why wouldn't you? So this has been wonderful. I know people are going to find it really valuable. Any final thoughts, Lisa, before we say goodbye? So generous with your experience and your ups and downs, and that's why I do my podcast. I want bariatric voices. People have different experiences and different ways of approaching things. People don't have to be your age, living in your country, to resonate with certain things that you've talked about. So that's the wonderful thing about sharing. So any final pearls of wisdom?
My final pearl is you're worth it. You're worth it. And I'm worth it. So for final thoughts for bariatric surgery, get the support you need. Trust yourself. When you have questions, if something's not sitting right, get your answers and get the support you need. I think it's made all of the difference. Emotional, mental, physical, spiritual. You need all the parts working together, and it's holistic, and that's very, very important. But you're worth it. If you're out there considering it, the new lifestyle, it is worth it.
great point. Build your team and know that you don't have to do it all on your own. And there's going to be ups and downs, but it's worth it. It's worth it to get to that point where you can look back. And that's why I asked you to do that activity, is really getting all the work you've done for yourself and giving yourself a pat on the back. So thank you so much for your generous sharing and your lovely smiley face.
All right.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Jane.
Bye.